let's go ahead and get started. So let me just do a quick introduction about myself. I'm the co-founder and chief marketing officer of OneVest, and before launching OneVest, I was the co-founder of Cofounders Lab, which recently merged with OneVest. Prior to that, I had co-founded a cloud collaboration software company called HyperOffice, which I operated for close to 8 years. I've also had some experience raising capital, just under $1 million, and I'll try to chime in here in some parts of the presentation. And I have to just quickly get some housekeeping items out of the way, because we are an equity crowdfunding platform. We need to just spend a half a minute to let you guys read this. The basic point here is that we are partnered with a registered broker-dealer, but we are not a broker-dealer ourselves, and we do not give any investment advice with regards to purchasing or investing into any stocks. So I know you guys are all fast readers, so I'm going to move on. Briefly want to tell you a little bit about OneVest. So we offer an equity crowdfunding platform. Because of Title II of the Jobs Act, you can now publicly solicit and advertise that you're raising capital for your startup. What OneVest does is we help with building teams. So we have one of the largest community of entrepreneurs, where I think Founder Institute and Cofounders Lab, Cofounders Lab and OneVest are sort of neck and neck there, and we help match co-founders to build great teams. And the second problem we solve for entrepreneurs is we help them raise capital, and using our equity crowdfunding platform. So on a regular basis, we provide education to our entrepreneurs to help them with various stages of their startup, and raising capital is clearly one of them. A little bit more about ourselves. We've helped companies match up. There's a company based in Boulder, Colorado that has gone on to raise over $5 million. They were a Techstars company, and they built their team on Cofounders Lab at the time. We also are helping companies every month raise capital. One of our recent companies we funded is Pristine down in Austin, Texas, and they were also an accelerator graduate, which we augmented their round. I'm very excited to introduce Adeo. Adeo, I'll let you introduce yourself, but I just got to get a couple things out here. Believe it or not, I've been mentoring for Founder Institute for about 2.5 years. I've mentored in Moscow, I've mentored in Los Angeles, I've mentored in New York twice. I think I'll be doing another one next year. I say all that to tell this audience that of all of the programs, if you have never started a company, you've never been a founder, Founder Institute is world class, and if Adeo is going to talk about it, but I've personally been involved, and their programming is excellent. I think it's best of breed for founder development. There's a lot of amazing people working there. They're growing the team, and I got to give also Adeo. This is the first time we've actually met, so we're meeting.
We've talked.
Yeah. So first time we got to see each other face to face, and I got to commend you. This Founder Institute has launched over 1,000 companies, guys. This is
almost 1,400.
We're at 1,400, guys. This is a monumental achievement. I've been at this for 3.5, 4 years. We have spawned about 450, 500 companies that have launched through our system. These guys are triple that. And I don't know of any other organization. Yeah, you can say a VC helps scale a company, but Petri dish building companies out of nothing and at that earliest stage, which is the hardest piece of that initial liftoff, no other organization can come close to what Founder Institute is doing. There's a reason they have a success, they have a formula, and I'm proud to be partners with you guys. I'll hand it over to you, Adeo.
Well, I'm also proud to be partners with OneVest. You guys are great. Thanks, everyone, for showing up today. So I'll introduce myself quickly, and then I'll go into the presentation to help you look at funding. And very quickly on the funding piece for 1 second, the world of funding has changed. So the presentation is called The New World of Funding, but as fast as you can make a presentation about the new world of funding, the new world of funding changes again, right? So crowdfunding is a new addition, et cetera. So I'll try and weave in some trends that are happening today. But quickly on my background, so like many of the people on the call, I am an entrepreneur. I've recently launched a venture fund, but the last 20 years of my career have been building technology companies. So I've created a total of 8 companies, not including the venture fund. The most recent company is the Founder Institute. I'll talk about that in a second. The previous 7 companies have created about $2 billion of shareholder value. I've raised tens of millions of venture capital. I've taken a company public on the NASDAQ with 1,000 employees. So I've pretty much done everything that you might think an entrepreneur can do, and it's a really tough journey. So the last 2 companies I formed before the fund, one was called The Funded, and that was to give back and create a directory of venture funds that were rated by your peers, so you would know where to go to raise capital when you wanted to seek venture funding. Before The Funded, there was no listing of venture funds. You had no idea who these people were. There was no TechCrunch, there was no nothing. Even with TechCrunch, it's not a comprehensive listing, so you had just no idea who the venture funds in the world were. But that's not really a business. That was just something to help people. And then I started the Founder Institute, and the Founder Institute's also a labor of love, and the intent is to help people who want to create a company get started. And these usually are people who have a day job. They've been dreaming about starting a business for some time, and we sort of give them what they need to get going. So we run 3.5-month-long programs in 87 cities around the world. You meet with a group of people once a week at night. 3 CEOs come, they talk to you about their experiences building a business, and then for the remainder of the week, we give you things to do to build your business, right? Very specific things. So, develop a list of questions to interview law firms, select the most appropriate law firms, conduct the interviews, pick a lawyer, incorporate the business, step-by-step stuff to build your business. And then you work with your peers and share the best practices. So by the end of the program, you have created a company, you've formed a team, and you've started to get traction. A lot of times you'll also have quit your job, and then you can go on and raise money, which I'll talk about in a moment. And we're in the process right now of launching our venture fund that is different than the Founder Institute. It's designed to fund a very limited number of companies worldwide, but it's different in that we're going to fund companies all around the world at the very earliest stages and give people who are smart and working hard on their business and put together a good team $1 to $2 million right at day one, and give them a shot to build something great without scratching through the walls with their bare hands to try and raise money, which we'll talk about right now. So let me go on to fundraising. We'll have some time at the end for questions. So the new world of funding, don't be shooting blanks. Now, I'm going to pre-apologize because I do curse a little bit. Don't take it personally. I just get upset at some things and use it for emphasis. So I'll try and avoid it, but sometimes I can't help myself. So there are 3 sources of capital in the world today. All right? There's fools, which are your friends and family, and you can raise 25 to 50,000, sometimes more. It's probably going to be a debt vehicle. So they're probably going to have to loan it to you personally, because there's all these laws about how someone can give capital to companies. Things like OneVest is solving. But if you're just starting out and you don't know where to go, usually a good place to start is with friends and family. and they're probably going to have to loan you money personally. And here's the nice thing, you can get that money basically at any time, right? It's like, hey mom, I'm going to quit my job and start my company. Can you loan me $5,000? And you get a simple paperwork in place. There's actually a few companies now that are providing the tools and technologies to do that. If you search, friends and family financing, we have a graduate that does it. There's some options there, and they provide the loan paperwork, etc., out of the box. The next group that you're going to go to, so by the way, just to be super clear, I strongly recommend that everyone raise money from their friends and family for one major reason. You need to get good at asking people for money, right? Raising money is asking people for money. Now, if you can't ask your friends and family for money, right, you're not going to be good at asking strangers for money, right? It's just, that's a fact, okay? If you can't ask your friends and family for money, you're not going to be good at asking strangers for money. So if for no other reason than just practice, you should get off the sofa, get out of bed, and raise your friends and family around. Now, by the time you go out to angels, you're going to need a full-time team of at least one person. You're going to have to prove that you understand your market. You're going to have some sort of functioning technology, and you're going to have some sort of initial customer adoption. If you don't have this, you can't raise angel money today, right? So this is the minimum that you need, and you can raise nowadays like 250 to 750,000 outside of major hubs, and you can go 750,000 to 5 million inside major hubs like maybe London, New York, Silicon Valley. So, but these are minimums, right? So it's not, oh, I got one full-time person and I'm a pretty good expert and I have a somewhat functional prototype, I can raise money. If you can get 2 full-time people and a functioning site, that's better, right? So these are the minimums. Then if you want to go to VCs, you really, over 2 is an understatement these days. What's happening is you're seeing a separation between venture. There's any sort of rule that you think you know about funding is gone. There are no rules anymore. What's happening is because the world's in flux. So what's happening today is VCs are moving earlier and they're moving later. And it's creating what's called this Series A gap. So you got a lot of people who will fund you at the early stages who were once venture capitalists that would fund you at later stages. And those same people, as well as some of their peers, are also moving a little later. And what's happening is they've created a sort of gulf where if you want to raise like $2 to $5 million, there's not too many places that you can go to do that today. It's a lot easier for you to raise like $1 to $3 million and $10 to $20 million. But that sort of $3 to $10 million range is there are not a lot of people who will fund you. Now, why is that? We'll answer what the minimum requirements for VCs are. Well, the reason there's that hole in the market is because people now look for home runs, right? So, like, Uber is a home run. Pinterest is a home run. You see these growth charts that are incredible, right? The companies get started. Excuse me a little bit. I have a bit of a cold, so it's probably better we're not sitting in the same room, because I certainly wouldn't want to get you sick. But I might need to cough or take a moment or sniffle, and don't take it personally. So this gulf has emerged because once you start getting that traction, right, and once you start moving up the curve and your growth rate is very high, so doubling every few months or doubling every year, and you know, your user acquisition and all this stuff is going up, at that point the venture capitalists want to put as much money as possible to work in your deal, so they don't really want to invest $3 to $10 million in companies that might get the curve. What they want to do is give a lot of companies a little money and hope that they get that curve, and then once you start getting on that curve, they want to give you a lot of money, right? So there's this gulf, really. And so what I would recommend is be very cautious dealing with venture capitalists, because they'll give you money if they think you might get on the curve, and then the second you don't hit that curve, they'll never fund you again, right? They'll throw you away like trash, unfortunately. But once you're on that curve, and this is the nature of the business, right? And you know, as a venture capitalist and an entrepreneur, it's just, that's what it is, right? It's not good, it's not bad, those are the rules. But once you're on that curve, you can raise as much money as possible. So there is this gulf where you think that your business might be doing well, but you're not doubling every year, doubling every few months, so your growth curve doesn't look great, ergo you don't get funded. So be very careful dealing with VCs. Understand what their motives are, and that will help you deal with it. So your best time to go to a venture capitalist is when you're on that growth curve. So you're going to need a full-time team, you're going to need a finished product, you're going to need proven company, and you're going to need huge monthly growth. Okay? So let's keep going. So fundraising is basically a full-time job, guys. You're going to need to be spending at least 20 hours a week, at least, right? Now, once you raise money from the outside world, maybe not your friends and family, so call it professional angel investors or seed stage venture funds or whatever, you're going to start spending a portion of every week forever raising more money or dealing with the money you've raised. So at a minimum, you can expect to spend 10 hours a week when you've raised money, and then when you're raising money, it could be 20 to 40 hours a week. It's going to happen during the day. It's going to happen at night. You're going to need to go to meetings at night, in the morning. You know, we're raising money for the venture fund. When you do that, you're on calls with people all around the world. You're midnight sometimes, 6 a.m. other times. I mean, you're going to be raising money all the time, which again, why the person who's doing the fundraising needs to be the CEO. You can't rely on third-party people to do the fundraising for you, and that person needs to be full-time. And depending, it's going to take you 3 to 6 months. You're going to spend, you know, $5,000 to $15,000 in legal, but the time invested is pretty good. You'll be earning about $1,000 an hour, so it's not a bad use of your time. So let's talk about your strategy. Pretty much when you're fundraising, and this is really, now it's funny, right? It doesn't matter if you're raising an angel round, it doesn't matter if you're raising a venture round, doesn't matter if you're raising a venture fund, doesn't matter if you're raising a hedge fund. When you're raising money, your only goal is to find the lead, right? So the lead does a few different important things, okay? They do due diligence on your company. So if you get a credible lead investor, they go in, they review your company, and they say, I certify that this founder and this company is legitimate, right? Secondly, that provides credibility to the other investors that you want to bring on. They also set the financial terms. So they not only say, this is a credible person, this is a credible company, here's what I think a fair deal is, And if you pick them right, they will provide you with operating experience and advice. So your job is to find a lead. Now, there's something called party rounds, and party round is where you sort of act as the lead. So you say, hey, I will be the lead investor in this. I'll set the terms. I think I'm pretty credible. You can use different platforms for that, OneVest, AngelList, etc. The problem with party rounds, and not saying they're, some of the platforms do this better than others, but the problem with party rounds is what happens when you go and you need to do another round, or you need to do something that requires shareholder approvals. Well, you got to go to each and every investor individually and then basically convince them one by one. Whereas if you have a lead investor, you can go to the lead investor and say, hey, dear lead investor, here's what I need to do. Okay, Adeo, or you, I agree. Okay, lead investor, handshake. Then you notify all the other investors and say, the lead investor and I have agreed to do the following, and pretty much everyone then follows. So the lead investor isn't only helpful in closing the round, it's also helpful in managing the deal once the round is closed, managing the company once the round is closed. So a lead investor is a good idea. So there are three things that every lead investor has. And so in your quest for a lead, you need to be like a sniper and just be like, either you have them or you don't, right? Number one, they are interested in your market segment. Number two, they have the financial resources to give you money. And number three, they have the time and they are risk ready to invest in the company. Now, think about these three things for a moment. They need to be interested in your segment, they need to have the financial resources, and they need to have the time. So this actually narrows the number of people that can be your lead investor quite a bit. A busy CEO at a top company in a related field probably has the interest and the finances, but doesn't have the time, right? So you really need all three things to be a lead in your company. So it's very important that you understand this when you're talking with someone. If they're way too busy, they're not going to be your lead investor. They may invest, but they're not going to be the lead. So, the reality is, guys, you're going to speak to, at least in the angel round and even in the venture world, you're going to speak with at least 50 people to get one lead. So 30 of those people are going to be your time, right? They're going to be meaningless meetings that have no purpose whatsoever. 20 of those people are going to express interest in investing. 10 of them might actually invest, and then you're going to get one of them to lead, right? And so that's sort of the ratio. It could even be worse right now, but just assume that this sort of breakout, you're going to need to speak to about 50 separate people. Now, I know you're going to be like, oh, I'm at 20, I'm at 30, or whatever, and you might not get there, but so at 20 or 30, and John, oh wow. So I have a guest dog in my office, so if you hear a dog roaming around, it's Hercules, our mascot. But so if you're at 30 people or 40 people and you're like, man, I don't have a lead yet, don't worry. It's going to be 50 people to get a lead. Now, you might get lucky for sure, but it's going to be about 50. All right, now, this is super important, guys, because if you go prematurely, so if you go out there and you're trying to fundraise and you don't have your stuff ready, if you don't have your pitch in good shape, if you don't have the company in good shape, you're going to get blacklisted, right? And you're not only, so there's a couple things that are important here. When you get a no, the no is forever, okay? A no lives forever, no matter what has. So if someone says, "Hey, man, you know, we we can't do this deal." It could be a venture capital, could be an angel investor, whatever. When they tell you no, you will never get a yes from them again. The no is forever. You could become the next Google, and because they said no, you're not going to ever get a yes, even if you're Google, because the investor has an average investor, even an angel investor, is seeing dozens, if not hundreds, of deals a month. The average venture investor sees, between 2,000 and 5,000 deals a year. Each partner. So once they say no on a deal, there's no need to go back because there's always new deal coming in. Now, there's some cases where they may look again, but you can assume a no is forever. Now, secondly, once they see you and you've kind of like were too early or weren't prepared enough, all these investors talk to one another. Angel investors are in other deals with other angel investors. Venture investors are in other deals with other venture investors. Here's what happens. They go to a dinner or board meeting. They're like, "Oh, man, what's been up? Oh, I saw this company. It was a complete waste of time. It was blankety blank. Oh, I have a meeting with them next week. Oh, you should cancel it. Total waste of time. Okay, call you up. Sorry, I can't meet with you, or something came up." Right? You get blacklisted. Once they see that you're not, once one of them or two of them see that you're not strong, you're never going to be able to get back, ever. So, and it will spread, and then you can't pitch anymore. It's over. But once you are ready, once you have the criteria we talked about before, you should get out there. And you're going to need to attend every event, go to dinners, hustle. You don't meet investors sitting in your office behind a computer. You meet investors at conferences. You meet investors at trade shows. You meet investors at dinners, at meetups, right? And, excuse me, if it's an appropriate industry event, you're going to meet your lead investor. So let's say you're working in mobile social media, and you go to a mobile social media meetup. The likelihood of an investor who's interested in mobile social media being at that meetup, who might in fact be your lead, is very high, because one of the key criteria is to be your lead investor is interested in your segment. So I not only recommend going to all industry events, you want to go to some pretty niche industry events that are specific to your type of company. And you're going to kiss a ton of frogs, right? You're going to meet people that are a complete waste of time. So when you meet someone, basically you need to categorize them right away. 1, 2, 3. Are you a lead investor candidate? Are you someone who can invest after that you have a lead, or are you someone that might connect me to an investor? Pretty much everyone you're going to meet should fall into these 3 categories. Otherwise, you're not going to the right events, or you're not hustling enough, right? Now, your job is to build relationships. So once you find someone in category 1 or category 1, what you need to do is build a relationship. So and convert is, again, interested in your segment. They have build a relationship with them, and then you convert them to a lead. And you do it like this, okay? This is probably the most important thing. So you can forget everything else I've talked about so far. Whoa. There's a little bit of echo. Okay, is he gone? Cool. Wasn't me. All right, so this is the most important slide, most important thing to know. You never ask for something until you think you're going to get a yes. Okay? Okay, listen to me clearly. Don't ask for something unless you think you're going to get a yes. If you think you're going to get a no, don't ask, right? Because a no is forever, right? Once you get the no, there's no going back to a yes. So, and by the way, the timing of when to ask is very important. So here's what you do. You meet with them. You invite them to coffee. You send them a little news update. You see they're speaking in an event or attending an event. You go to the event, right? Maybe then you say, hey, I have a question I want to ask you. Can we meet for dinner? And when you're pretty dang sure that you've had 4 or 5 separate interactions with them, that there's a good probability that they'll say yes, at least 50%. You invite them to dinner, you get them on the phone, and you only ask at that point. And I'll talk about how you ask. But basically, if they may say something like, oh, I'm kind of interested, let me think about it. You might do a funding update or some other news update. And if they don't say yes, at that point, they're going to go to no. So, a couple things. I'll talk about how to ask in a moment. But the goal of each and every meeting that you have with an investor is to get to the next meeting. So let me be abundantly clear about like people, you will write emails that are like 10 pages, and I'm guilty of this too. They're like 5 pages, like long, right? But your goal is to get to the next meeting. So you want to write an email that's like 1 sentence. Great to meet you, comma, can we connect for coffee next week? Question mark. You know, that's it. Name. So, because each time you, back to this chart, each time you interact with a potential investor, the likelihood of you closing the deal increases because they're committing more time, they're growing the relationship until about 5, 6, or 7 interactions, then it will start to decline after that. But so the goal of each and every interaction in each and every meeting is to get to the next meeting, and that's it, right? And one of the things I didn't tell you how to ask, so you want to ask in the following way, by the way, if there'll be a lead. You want to say something like, would you be interested in leading my, so you want to ask a very sort of hypothetical question. Would you be interested in helping the company grow by leading this next round of financing? Or would you be interested in advising us on how to grow and leading the, so you want to make it very, you want to make it so it's not quite a yes or no question. So of course I'm interested in advising the company, but I'm not really interested in leading, so let me think about it, right? You don't want them to just give you an outright no. You want to phrase the question in such a way that hopefully it's a yes, but the worst case scenario, they have to think about it. And then what will happen is you're going to wind up in a situation that looks like this, and this is really geared to the angel level. You're going to have some number of people who've told you, I am going to invest 50 grand in your deal. Send me the paperwork. And then you're going to have another, and these people are called hard circle. Then you're going to have another group of people. When you have the paperwork ready, I'll look it over. I'm thinking to invest, anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. Let me think about it. Now, those are soft circled people. So 75% of the people who told you questionably that they will invest money will actually invest money. And about 25% of the people invest, they need a little more time to think about it, will invest. But so just get ready. It's called hover. So again, the question I was telling you before: would you be interested in being an advisor leading around? That's the way to sort of give them the two things, but lead with a question like, sure, I'm interested in being an advisor, not sure about leading around. Create a question that allows you to get not a no as an answer. Now, you're going to need to compensate the lead, right? So if they say, after you ask them that question, they're like, yeah, I'm interested in being the lead, be like, great. And when you be like, we'd love to also make you an advisor. We'll give you some advisory shares for invest over 2 years. You can actually use an agreement that we have that's created. It's fi.co/FAST, F-A-S-T. This is a standard advisor agreement, which you can send anyone that you want to be an advisor, including a lead investor, and it has standard equity grants. Now, you can offer the advisor position when you make the offer to be a lead, or when you ask to be the lead, but don't make them an advisor until after they lead the deal. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, but the main reason is when you start a snowball effect and different people are showing interest to invest in the round, different people might say, no, I want to lead the deal. Now, if someone else wants to lead the deal and they give you better terms, then you've kind of screwed over this guy or woman who offered to be the lead, and now they're an advisor in your company, right? So don't make them an advisor until after they lead the round. Now, I'm going a little slow here. I don't know why. Maybe it's the cold. So I'll try and speed it up a bit. So your best situation with a lead want to control the financing agreements, right? 2 reasons. Number one, then they're better for you. And then number 2, your lead investor doesn't have to do the work. So you say, here, I was thinking to do a convertible equity round, raising $1 million with a $3 million cap. Does that sound reasonable to you? Now, I know the slide says convertible debt, but about a year ago we invented convertible equity, and it now there's something called the START agreement, or the SAFE agreement, excuse me, from Y Combinator. So we invented something called convertible equity, and then it pretty much took off. About 50% of all funding deals now at the angel stage are convertible equity, and Y Combinator basically branded it as the SAFE agreement. It sounds better. Like, we have the FAST agreement. We should have called it like the cool agreement or something like that. But convertible equity, the SAFE agreement are the best ways to go. So you propose the terms, you draft the term sheet, you draft the final agreements. Don't leave that on the lead. Now, once you have the lead, once you have the terms, once you're getting everything ready, at this point you want to build buzz and create a snowball effect. So you want to make sure that you have a series of internal company milestones and a newsletter where you're sending updates out. This happened, that happened, this happened. You want to organize at least one public announcement before the close, and you better make sure that your metrics are moving up and to the right. What can happen is, so you're in the process, you get a lead, it's going to take you a month or 2 to close, right? Now you're hustling, trying to get everything done for the close, and you neglect the business, and the metrics tank. They'll pull out. So you not only need to be hustling to close, creating buzz, getting press, but your metrics have to be growing during this period as well. Otherwise, you're going to fail. So in terms of closing the deal, you're going to need a strong lawyer, a term sheet. You're going to need a minimum amount that you want to get. You're going to want a minimum that people can invest in. So the minimum closing amount is like, we won't close this angel round with less than $250,000. The minimum to invest in the round is $25,000. You don't need this, but you want a closing date. We're going to target a closing date on, November 15th. And then you're probably going to need a maximum amount as well, though that's less and less necessary these days. But because what happens is if you're putting you want a maximum and investors want a maximum, you can get really screwed. If you have like a $3 million cap and you're raising $1 million in convertible equity, and suddenly you raise $2 million because more people have come in, you've just sold 40% of your company, right, in your angel round. There's no hope you'll ever own your business again. You've lost control of the company. So thinking about your max amount is important. Now, if 2 million people worth of interest come in, you throw away the term sheet, you find a new lead, and you restructure the terms. So again, you might, just looking at an angel round, you might have a lead investor putting in 50 to 500,000. You'll have some large angels, some smaller angels, and some friends, right? So your round might, in an ideal world, you have 5 or 6 investors. You might get up to 10, and then you can look at how the mix breaks out in the chart.
Adeo, sorry to interrupt you here. I wanted to make sure we leave enough time for Q&A.
Let me see. I've got 2 more slides. So
okay, great.
Quickly, so your term sheet for equity is about 3 pages. Your term sheet for a convertible vehicle like convertible equity or convertible debt is about 1 page. The closing costs are higher in equity, and then you can read the difference between equity and debt and convertible vehicles. I recommend convertible equity right now pretty much universally, because the equity deals are harder to do, more expensive, more cumbersome, and take longer. So we'll skip over valuation. So some closing points. There are no shortcuts, guys. Crowdfunding, AngelList, brokers, OneVest, whatever. They're helpful tools, but they're not like going to make it 10x easier for you to raise money. Raising money is hard. Be patient, build the relationship. Don't drive to yes or no right away. Investors will tell you they're going to fund you, and they won't. You're going to always need to be updating your pitch. You should probably have a coworker sit with you in these pitches, write body language down. Don't give up any benefits till the deal is done. Stick to the facts and don't overpromise. So thank you, guys. If you want, you can join the Founder Institute. I know a lot of you are from the U.S. We have chapters spooling up Silicon Valley, Denver, LA, Vegas, Charlotte, Orange County, San Diego, Toronto, among others. And it's fi.co/join. You'll learn about this and a lot more. So let's take some questions, back to the point. Happy to do so. Hey, everybody.
All right, thank you very much, Adeo. That was amazing. Really got I learned a lot as much as I've been doing this myself. So just want to call out a couple of points here. I can't stress enough this point about, even though you're doing equity crowdfunding, you're going online. Our job on OneVest is to introduce you to these these investors, but it's still up to you to go through the same process. You're not skipping anything. There's nothing magical about online fundraising. You have to go through the same. You can't skip any of those steps that Adeo talked about.
Right. That's why I was like, there's no shortcuts. You just got to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And before I open it up to questions here, I just want to also mention that we are going to be posting this to our learning portal that we're going to be publicly announcing here very soon, called learn.onevest, and that's where you're going to be able to see the presentation. This presentation will be recorded, and you'll be able to find it at learn.onevest. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions now. And our first question comes from Joe. He's asking, can you approach an angel investor with a one-page business summary, or is an in-depth business plan required? Adeo, if we can take that one, please.
No one needs business plans anymore, and you don't need a one-page business summary. You need a deck, right? You need a product, you need a deck. So if your product is weak, then I would, have a really good deck. If your product is strong, your deck doesn't need to be that good. So, it's one or the other. Great product or great deck. Your ideal scenario is both, but you don't need a one pager. It's nice to have. You don't need a business plan at all. It's a waste of time. You need a deck, and you need a product. And the better, ideally, as I said, if your product's not that good, make the deck great. If your product's great, you don't have to worry that much about the deck. Your best case is both. And there are tons of examples of pitch decks online. There's actually, I just saw a site that's like great pitch decks, or you can literally, there's a whole site dedicated to some of the best pitch decks. And I went, and they're pretty good. So I'm like, whoa, those are actually all right. If I saw those decks, I don't know how the company's fares, but the decks were very good. So look online for deck samples. Other questions?
All right, next question comes from Thomas. Finding a lead investor. What if it takes a while to find the one? Would you work with other investors and keep looking for the lead? Wouldn't people who write a check want to know who the lead investor is?
Yeah, you need to have your lead investor before you close the round, so you're not going to be able to close the round without having the lead investor. Here's what I would say. You're going to take, it could take you 50 meetings to find the lead investor. So what you want to do is book something like 25 to 50 meetings in the course of 1 month, right? So that you speed through. So if it takes you 50 meetings and you spread those 50 meetings over 3 to 5 months, then you're going to have the problem that Thomas is describing, which is you're going to have people who came in 3 months ago and are waiting around, and like a nuclear particle, they decay over time, so their close rate will diminish. So your ideal scenario is to compress the time that you meet with as many people as possible. So you do a lot of legwork up front. Hustle, 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 hustle. Go to events, go to events, go to events. Book, meet. Then do a massive scheduling initiative to get 30 to 50 meetings in a month. And then hopefully you'll have the lead by the end of the month.
Great. We're going to take our next question from Saeed, who asks, can I start a company and get funded alone? I'm going to take a first crack at this here.
If you want to go to the Cofounders Lab, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to build a scalable startup and you're taking outside investment, the chances are very low that investors, particularly sophisticated investors, will invest in single founder companies. Some of the accelerators, the bigger, better ones, including Techstars, they won't even invest in single founders. You have to have 2 or more founders. This is, and if you look at sort of historically the companies that have had big exits, very few, like less than probably 13% have been single founder companies.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Actually, the data is a little more mixed on that. So if you look at the biggest companies in the world, did Facebook have co-founders? Sort of. Did Google have co-founders? Yes. Did Oracle have co-founders? No. Does Tesla and SpaceX have co-founders? No. So, like, it is a little more mixed. I mean, I think that, look, there's no one right answer, but having co-founders is a great solution. What I would say, though, is that more than co-founders, you need a team, right? So, look, your job when you run you're not squirreling away in a closet engineering. You're running a company, right? You're building a company. So what do you do when you build a company? Well, you hire people, right? And you raise money. That's your job, right? So hiring and raising money is something you should be doing all the time, right? If you're not doing it, you're not appropriately running your company, right? Now, if you don't need to raise money, that's even better. But in the early stages, everyone needs to raise money. Now, you can raise money from yourself if you're independently rich. So, like, when I started the Founder Institute, I funded it. I'd been a successful entrepreneur. I had the capital I needed, so I funded it myself. We've never taken a dime of outside money. Now, I don't love raising money. It's a kind of pain in the ass. It's distracting. So then that allowed me to focus on the other things like team, etc. But if you're building a company, you should be recruiting 10 to 20% of your time. And if you're raising money or dealing with your investors 10 to 20% of your time, that's 40% of your time at a minimum that's spent between hiring and fundraising. And then that 60% of your time can be spent on whatever else you're good at, coding, marketing, etc. So, other questions?
Yeah, I just want to add to building the team. So the team is co-founders, it's your first few hires, and your advisors. So you want to bring in advisors that can either get you distribution, they understand your industry, they may be able to help you raise capital. My advisors in both the last two startups I've started and adding OneVest have been extremely valuable. We wouldn't have gotten to where we were without them. Adeos offered some good tools on how to structure that. We also do have advisors on the platform currently at cofounderslab.com. It's a free service. You can find advisors. We do some quality control there too. So check that out. We're going to take a couple more questions here. This one comes from Tom. He asks, equity for angel investors. What is your recommendation? Founder shares, convertible notes with a valuation cap. He's saying, which of these three is the best for an angel investor?
The best for if you are an angel investor, look, it doesn't matter. It's binary, right? So either the company is going to be big or it's going to die. So as an angel investor, the vehicle doesn't matter, right? The best vehicle for the investor if you're really it's going to be big or it's going to die. That's it. There's no middle ground on angel investing. You could get some base hits here and there, but from an angel investor perspective, a base hit is a relatively big outcome, right? If someone sells for like $15-20 million, you get 2 or 3x. That's a binary positive outcome, but death is the more common outcome. So the single best vehicle to maximize some rare ability to squeeze some money out of a dead rabbit is to have convertible debt. But as I said, it's so binary that unless you really needed to squeeze back a little bit of money, all the above vehicles are fine, and the best vehicle for both parties probably is convertible equity. The best party for investors is convertible debt.
Great, thank you. We'll take our next question here. It's going to be our final question from Himakara, who asks, are there better months than others for fundraising?
Yeah, the summer's dead and the winter's dead. So basically from Thanksgiving to Christmas is dead. Basically to New Year's is dead, and from July to September is dead. So If you want to, you're kind of screwed if you haven't raised money yet. You're going to really need to do it next year because there's like what 30 days to Thanksgiving. I mean, anything's possible. I don't want to say like never, but yeah, Thanksgiving to New Year's is really a dead period, and July and August is a dead period. So you want to sort of start in September and conclude by November, or start in January, conclude by March, start in March, conclude by June if you can. Those are sort of your optimal spots to raise. With that said, thank you guys. As I mentioned before, we're enrolling around the world with a couple dozen chapters in the U.S. region or the Americas, so fi.co/join. Thank you, OneVest, for hosting us. It's a super awesome turnout, and I hope I could share some stuff that was helping you building great businesses.
Thank you very much, Adeo. That was fantastic. Giving it to us straight, extremely insightful, and we're going to be putting this on the learn.onevest portal so you can share it with your friends. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. Great job, Adeo. Thank you.
Bye, guys.